Glad you're with me for another dose of Biselleh Torah. Hukkat is the parsha this week, and I'd like to begin with a question. The question is, what do we need? Oftentimes we confuse what we want with what we need. In fact, our wants are many. They're almost infinite. In fact, they may be infinite. Our needs, however, are very few. What do we need? We need something to sustain us in life, something physical to put inside of our bodies to make sure that they continue to function. And we need a reason to continue to live. Those are the two primary forces that we need in our life, and both find they are highlighted in this week's parsha. So we begin this week's reading with something called the mystery or the Hukkat of the red heifer. The red heifer was a red cow that was burnt, and its ashes were mixed with water in order to purify those people that had become impure. So the water mixed with the ashes became the purifying agent. Then immediately afterward, we find that Miriam, Moses' sister, passes away, and when she dies, the water or the well that has fed the Jewish people throughout their sojourn in the desert for 40 years has disappeared, and they begin to rebel. So in the first instance, we've got the water, which is a purifying agent for those people that had become stigmatized by impurity that had attached themselves to them. And then the second instance, we've got this great thirst and longing for water as soon as Miriam dies. So we've got something physical and we've got something spiritual. The third item that happens is as soon as the water disappears, dries up, then the people begin to revolt. They complain to Moses bitterly about the lack of water, and what are they going to do to sustain themselves? Because the water, again, is that sustaining element that will guide them through the years of the desert and then beyond. We cannot do without water. Our bodies are mostly made up of it, and without continuing to replenish those supplies of our body, we will not make it. So Moses, reacting to the people, says, listen, I will bring forth water from this rock. And he strikes the rock and water comes out. But of course, there's a little bit of a problem there because Moses strikes the rock when God commanded him to speak to the rock to let out water. Again, a little bit of confusion between wants versus needs. Moses is concerned about his wants to appease the people. The people's needs are very simple. Just give us water. And God's orders are also very simple. Just talk to the rock and it will give forward water. In yet another instance, as the Jewish people go beyond this event, they want to pass through the Edomite kingdom, and they say, let us pass through peacefully. We don't want war. We don't want any trouble. Just let us purchase water from you. We'll pay you for what we drink, and then we'll pass through. And the Edomites shake their head and say, no, we're not going to accommodate you. And ultimately a war ensues so that the Jewish people can pass through unimpeded. And by the way, it's a defensive war. It's not an offensive war. So all these instances, 22 times in this week's Torah reading, the word mayim, water, appears. So what, again, is water? Well, again, it's that sustaining agent that guides us through life that we cannot do without. And it's also emblematic of something else, which is really key to this week's Torah reading and, indeed, the Torah itself. Because mayim, water, is equivalent to Torah. It's something that we cannot live without. We need both the spiritual and we need the physical in order to sustain us. And both are emblematic in this week's Torah reading by the numerous mentions of water time and again. So here's the upshot of it all. Number one, we don't need to be told to make sure that we eat enough, to make sure that we, at least most of us do not, eat enough, sustain us enough, to be able to drink enough water and drink enough sustaining liquids and foods that will keep us going throughout the days. The part that we tend to miss is the water of life, the elixir that gives meaning to life, the spiritual compulsion to be able to put one foot in front of another and find meaning in life itself, which is mayim, chayim, which is living water. And living water, again, according to Judaism, is Torah. So we're left with this primary thought today. We give ourselves what we need in order to live physically, but do we give ourselves enough spiritual nourishment to continue to find meaning in every single day? And the Jewish response to that, of course, is be Torah. Not just learn Torah, but that is important, but embody it. And then reason enough to live and to thrive, which I think is really key, becomes paramount and becomes self-evident in every single day that we live our life. Shabbat Shalom.